From a payment side, payment term side, the cost, and I'll break this down into two different parts, a letter of credit versus selling an open account, maybe with credit insurance. They're often the two that we see sort of compete with each other. Letter of credits can vary in cost. It really depends on the amount of the sale. Banks have minimum fees. Once you get out of those minimum fees, then you get into percentages. One fee that's always the same is going to be the advising fee. And that fee is not going to vary if it's a $50,000 letter of credit, $20,000 or a $10 million. It's always going to be one cost. That fee can vary anywhere from probably $85 up to $150, I would say, $175. Really depends on the bank and depends on your relationship with the bank. Many banks offer online letters of credit processing, which will help reduce those advising fees. And those programs are usually free of charge to the customer. Another fee that's involved in a letter of credit is what's called the negotiation or document examination fee. And that's the cost to the bank to review the documents when you submit them. That fee, again, has a range to it, maybe $150 up to $250 minimum, and then about 1/8% is typical. If you're, whichever is more, $200, let's say, or 1/8%. So, if you're looking at a $30,000 letter of credit, when you look at it on a percentage basis, it can be quite high because you're going to hit those minimums. But when you get into $100,000, $200,000, those fees become, from a percentage standpoint, a lot lower. Confirmation is going to add an additional cost on there. That fee can range from 3/8% all the way up to 3/4%. That is a fee that is based on a quarter. So that fee is based from the time the letter of credit is issued until the time the documents are reviewed or the letter of credit has expired. So if the letter of credit is issued on January 1st and it's not payable till, let's say, September 30th, you could pick up an additional, at 0.5% per quarter, pick up an additional 0.75%, or 1% rather, or more. So that's something certainly to think about. But then again, 1% to secure, a couple $100,000 might not be a bad situation. It really depends on the company and the cost of the products to build them, the margin that they have in there as well. Credit insurance varies from country to country. And also varies whether you have a blended or a multi-buyer policy, or if you're just looking to secure one deal. The costs on that can range anywhere from 0.5% all the way up to 1.5%. Really depends again on the country, the term. A 30-day term is going to be cheaper than a 90-day term, and so on. So those will impact the costs. But again, a lot of these things you should be able to get pricing on in advance to help you build in those fees. We do see oftentimes where companies will not build in the fees, or they just don't have an understanding, and they do a $50,000 letter of credit and have $500, $600 in fees that they didn't expect. With letters of credit, generally the fees are split, so the importer will pay the fees that are from his bank, and the exporter will pay the fees that are generated from his bank. We do see from time to time where the fees are all one way. Very rarely though, for the most part, the fees are split. And it really all depends on the amount of letter of credit, but usually the importer is going to pay a little bit more than what the exporter will pay. But again, generally, the exporter will pay fees that are generated in his country, and the importer will pay the fees that are generated in his country. But we do see from time to time where the importer bears all the costs. Very rarely do I see where the exporter bears all the costs. And that's a risky thing to do for an exporter because you have no idea what those fees on the other side are going to be. And even if you do get if you would come to your bank here and say, what are your typical fees to issue a letter of credit? That's not how it's going to be overseas. Overseas, there could be a percentage. It's very different. So you want to try to stay away from that.